hop on a little bit early to get my technical stuff together. My IT person is not here, so it's just me. Um, Today we will be talking about situational awareness for kids. So it's not that big of a leap from situational awareness for adults. So there'll be a lot of crossover. But grab your coffee and we'll get this rolling in about 5 minutes. Let me know who's here so I can say hi to you. Just getting everything set here so I can share it to our pages and not just my page. Figured that one out last time. And if you were here last time, I figured out how to get my PowerPoint up too. Always growing. Hey, Todd. One of my number one supporters, Mr. Peters. Love ya. I'm going to keep my head down. Another minute or so. So I'm figuring today might be a little light for our live viewers because it is Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to everybody. Just know that this is on Facebook. It's in the intrawebs. So you can watch the replay. And I do always make a pretty solid effort to look back and make sure that I answer any questions or address any concerns. So if you're watching this later and you have questions or anything, just write it in the comments, private message, email, whatever works for you. So good morning, T. Whoa. All right. Good morning, T. Happy Mother's Day. Hey, Jonna and Anna. Let's see. Cool. All right. So situational awareness for kids should be like in that mom Bible that none of us get. But it is, hey Des, hey Jonna, good morning, happy Mother's Day. Situational awareness for kids is one of the most coolest ways to protect yourself because it checks a lot of boxes. You yourself become more aware. You play games and interact with your kids and you watch them transform into these aware, problem-solving, critical thinking, little, awesome people. And just by playing, they become so much safer. So what I'm going to do is jump right in with my PowerPoint. So I'm fancy today. Here we go. So if that is too small or hard to see, just let me know. And we'll see how this goes. Let me see. I'm going to wait. I have a little bit of a lag here on mine. Cool. I can see it on my phone. It looks pretty good. All right. So situational awareness for kids. Why? How do you do that? So the best way to provide the education to kids about situational awareness is to be aware yourself. And it's funny because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine And I said to her, I'm like, people may not know what situational awareness is. They're two rather long words. And, I think before I started Krav Maga, I really wasn't using those words. I was using them, just not together. So literally, situational awareness is just like knowing what's going on around you, knowing what's going on around you and how what's going on around you can interact with you, the good and the bad. So if you can keep your head up, be aware, look around, your children see that, and they see that as the way life is, right? You're observing your surroundings, you identify what's around you. If there's any changes in your environment, you adapt to it, you respond. So you're not living this reactionary life. You're really trying to stay on top of things and respond. And it's not something that should be scary or out of the ordinary. It is everyday life. And I gave a couple examples here. We all look both ways before we cross the street. We teach our kids to look both ways before we cross the street. And it's all in the way you present it. So you want to say, you want to be safe. Cars belong on the street. We're crossing the street. You don't turn to them and be like, oh, a car could come and run you over. That would be horrible, horrible. So what we do is we pre-frame our children to be like, okay, a street is where all the cars go, and that's great, so we can get to the supermarket and get to the movies. But sometimes people have to walk where cars are supposed to be. So we are actually what's out of the ordinary. We are against what the baseline is of that street. So we have to be aware of what's going on and how we're going to interact with that environment and how they're going to interact with us. So we need to look both ways and make sure there aren't any cars coming before we cross the street. It's as simple as that. It's just not that long explanation because it's become normal for us. It's not out of the ordinary. It's not scary. It's not being prepared or being paranoid or tactically paranoid. It's just life. Same with putting your seatbelt on. Or if you're going on a road trip, or even, when I used to take my daughter to church, like I'd have to bring her goldfish and water, or else it was going to be awesome. Awesomely fun, her saying, Mommy, I'm hungry. All right. So you kind of prepare. We turn our lights on, our outside light on before we leave, so that way when we come home, we're not coming home to a dark front door. We have a fire extinguisher in the kitchen just in case, so things that are always kind of there that are being situationally aware, and without even knowing it, we're instilling that good thought process into our kids. So teaching situational awareness trumps the whole don't talk to strangers things. So there was an old school idea that, we would teach our children stranger danger, don't talk to strangers. And really it's not valid. It's unfortunate that most children don't, they don't really know what a stranger is. I think most adults don't know what a stranger is. So to group everything into don't talk to strangers is really an outdated thought process. So you want to avoid that terminology, don't talk to strangers or stranger danger. They did a study and they asked children to actually identify or draw what a stranger was. And they all drew this like frightening, scary looking image. When in reality, when someone is trying to hurt you, they don't present as a big, scary thing. They present as very personable and let me help you get your guard down. And I don't want you to be afraid of me. So even last week when we were talking about process predators and how do the bad guys get in, they don't get in this big fiery flame of craziness. They kind of sneak in under the radar. Same thing with kids. And once the kids start having this conversation with the stranger, then they're not strangers anymore. Right? The kid's like, hey, this is my new friend. And the statistics are kind of staggering about who exactly is going to do the abusing, or who is going to be that, threat to your child. So there's one statistic that is quite heavy for a Saturday or a Sunday morning. Baron, mommy's talking. Can you lay down? Lay down, bud. Come on. That's my lovely dog, who is always looking to get on camera. So the staggering statistics are, I'll just lay it out here for you guys. All the children under 5 who were murdered from 1976 to 2005, 31% of them were killed by their fathers, 29% were killed by their mothers, 23% were killed by male acquaintances, 7% were killed by other relatives, and only 3% were killed by strangers. Okay, so that is if you needed the proof that saying stranger danger, don't talk to strangers is not what we should be doing. There it is in black and white. But the good news is children want to know how to protect themselves. They really do. I teach children. They're engaged. They enjoy it. They like having that sense of confidence. And honestly, children really want to feel safe. So as adults, as parents, what we need to do is to teach our kids how to be prepared for life. But it's really fun because it's all through play. Kids learn through play. I would argue that adults need to learn through play a little bit. We're all getting a little too uptight. But with these games, these situational awareness games, or just kind of having those kind of conversations, we're able to teach them these skills from a really early age, and the games grow with the kids. So it's not like, well, you can only use this game when they're 10. It's like, no, you can start them when they're 4, and you can build. We also need to have an open conversation about personal safety. So it can't be, if we as parents are afraid to talk about our child's personal safety, then what we're modeling for our kids is that they should be ashamed of it. Small things like calling your body what you're anatomically supposed to call your body. That's huge. So that kids understand what their body parts are called. They understand that certain body parts are just for them and their parents and their doctors. And if something should happen with those body parts, they're not going to be like, well, Mr. So-and-so touched my flowers, right? You'll know exactly what they're talking about. And that way, when kids try to explain that they've gotten into a bad predicament, or they've been abused, you don't have to kind of dissect the metaphors. It's very blatant. So we need to make sure there's no shame with what body parts are called, and how body parts are yours, and you have, this is my space, this is my bubble, this is mine. And I say what goes on in here. I think you should start that from a very young age. We should have an open dialogue about what's safe and what's dangerous. And it doesn't have to be real world violence in the beginning. I mean, Disney and Pixar do it for us. If you watch any of the Disney movies, or any of the Pixar movies, or Star Wars, or anything on Disney Plus, and we're all watching all these movies now, we can pick out pieces of the movie and be like, is that a safe situation, or is that dangerous? Even in one of the books that I was reading to prepare for this, they talked about in Finding Nemo, right? There's so many instances in Finding Nemo where the situation is not safe. So you don't have to create anything. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to come up with the examples on your own. It's all right there for you. It's just as simple as engaging the child in the conversation. Same thing with identifying good guys and bad guys. What kind of behaviors do the good fish have in Finding Nemo versus the bad fish in Finding Nemo? And then from there, we can design, drills or games to increase their awareness, to kind of build from there. All right, so games. Let's have some fun. So one of the great games, so let me back up just a second here. So some of the games I talk about are games that I've played with Isabella, that Ernie has played with Isabella, and it's very, very organic to me. Some games I haven't played, but I loved them. So I wanted to put them in here. All of these games, plus so much more, can be found in a book called Playful Preparedness, and that's by Tim Young. It is, it's an easy read. Everything's laid out really well. It's definitely, I think I got it on Kindle for like $5. It's definitely worth it. It's great. So survival bag. So some of us that are a little bit more tactically inclined have heard of, your go bag, your bug out bag. You don't have to call it that with your kids. You can just talk about, what would you need with you if you needed to, I don't know, the bus, something happened to the bus and you had to walk home. What would you need in your bag to help you to safely walk home? What if, you had your dolly with you? What would your dolly need? Or your superhero, figurine, would they need their cape? Would they need a snack? Would they need some water? And then let your kids kind of play with it. Let them decide what the weather is like. If you're walking home from school on a sunny day, it's going to be a lot different than walking home from school on a snowy day. So, if the weather in the morning calls for snow, what would you put in your bag? You'd want to make sure you had your snow boots and your mittens and your scarf. So when you start with your kids playing that game of what would you need to bring with you, even little kids, if you're going to the supermarket and you're like, you need to bring your things so that you are, taken care of when we're at the supermarket. As they grow, then they start to realize what they need to prepare themselves for just in case scenarios. So as they get older, teenagers, what are they going to put in their backpacks for school? Things like that. Another game that talks about that situational awareness is called Snapshot. So Snapshot, you can play with, little itty bitties up to the teens. And then you just kind of gauge it based on what's going on. So you have your child take a look around their environment. It could be in the house. It could be at the park. It could be, if you go to the supermarket while you're waiting in line. And then have the child, give them a timer and then have them close their eyes and then ask them to say back to you things that they had seen. And, just be mindful of what they're paying attention to. What do they see? Did they notice that, there was a car parked in, a spot that was catty cornered? Did they notice that the shopping carts weren't put away? Did they notice that the person in front of them had on a brown coat? Did they notice that the shopping cart that you were pushing had a wiggly wheel? So you start to identify kind of where your kid is on the level of situational awareness. And there have been times Isabella has kicked my butt in this game. She's just so aware. And then, then you can start to build it. And it's like, okay, this is what I want you to look for. Let me know where the exits are. Let me know where the fire extinguishers are. Let me know what the floor looks like. Is it slippery? Is it wet? Is it uneven? Are the tiles broken? Things like that, things that you can build. If there were a bad situation, what would you do? But it's not scary. It's just playing a game, which kind of leads me into I Spy. I Spy, Christ, we've all played I Spy. We had to have. And it really is as simple as just, I spy I was talking about this on my first episode is if I were in a situation with my 4-year-old niece versus my 10-year-old daughter, I would play I Spy to get her more in tune to what's going on around her. And I wouldn't be like, I spy an exit. She's 4. I'd be like, I spy a window, or I spy a sign that's red, because sometimes exit signs are red. I spy a handle, a door handle, things like that. And because you're picking out the little details, the minutia of the exit, the child is really like looking around, and then they, without even knowing, have identified all these little minutia of an exit, right? Other things that are you would think would be so important, but do you need to push the door or pull the door, right? How many of us have pushed that door, or is it an automatic door versus, good old fashioned hinged door? How quickly does that automatic door open? I can tell you, I have walked into an automatic door. It was glass, and it apparently wasn't opening as fast as I was walking. Smashes my face. So all those little things are bits you can add as your child gets really good at I Spy. There was a game that Tim Young talked about that I hadn't thought about before, and I love it. It's called Guts. And it teaches kids about what their gut instinct is, and it helps to name it. I'll tell you guys, this is for kids, but I need this in my life because I get all worked up and I don't know why. So Guts is a game about identifying what you're feeling and why you're feeling it, and then kind of putting that into play and seeing where those feelings took you. So the example that the author gave was, you're about to go somewhere new. Let's say you're taking your child to the dentist for the first time. You ask them, what do you think it's going to be like? And you get them like having a conversation about what they think the dentist will be like. And, it really depends on if they've never been to the dentist before, I guess, what they've seen on TV, right? And to bring it back to that Finding Nemo example we had before, that could be a pretty scary dentist if you guys have ever seen Finding Nemo. And then you ask them, what are your feelings about this? And then that way your kids start to label their feelings and then what their body's reaction is to it, which is huge. So it's kind of like you start to begin the process of weeding out that disproportional anxiety to what's going on, because you're able to label your feelings. So for example, they might be nervous. And if they're nervous, then they might act like their body will be quiet, or they'll feel jittery. Unless they're happy and excited, then they might be smiling and feel really energetic. And then you ask your child to describe how they feel. And you let them know that how they feel is it's their gut instinct. That's their gut. That's their instincts. That's their intuition telling them about the situation they're either in or about to be in. So you start to reinforce that what a child feels about a situation is appropriate. You give them the vocabulary to identify what they're feeling. And then you do almost like an after action report. So you go to the dentist and you're like, listen, I know you're scared. It's a very valid reason for you to be scared. The episode, or that scene in Finding Nemo scares me too. But mommy's been to the dentist her entire life. It may be a little uncomfortable, but everything turns out okay. Mommy's okay. We need to have a healthy smile. We need to have a healthy, mouth. And the dentist is a great person. So you're not forcing your child to be like, I love my dentist. But what you're telling them is what you feel right now is super appropriate. Feel it. Go in with that type of apprehension so you're aware of what's going on around you. And then afterwards, think about it and say, okay, I was nervous. It was a little scary. I had lots of things in my mouth and I couldn't, swallow, and I'm drooling all over myself. But at the end of the day, everything turned out all right. And lots of people have gone to the dentist. And, that fear, that anxiety I had was valid, but is no longer necessary. That's huge for kids, because the way that you're going to protect them is by making them aware of what's going on around them, and then encouraging and instructing and teaching them how to listen to their guts. Same with us, right? We need to listen to our guts. It's not what the person looks like. It's what the actions of that person make you feel. What am I feeling? What is my body's reaction? What is the scenario that I'm living in right now? And is my anxiety, is my fear, is it warranted? And you can't just wake up one morning and have all of that problem solved and critically thought out in your head. Start small, start as a kid. And then, God forbid, that child is put into a situation with someone who's not a stranger, someone they know, and they start to feel the anxiety and fear and apprehension. Then they're like, wait a second, person I know, I feel a little uncomfortable right now. I don't want to hang out here anymore. I need to change my surroundings. I need to let someone else know about this. I might just let you know about this. And don't we always talk about that when you start to see pre-fight indicators, or you start to identify pre-incident indicators? If you start to kind of call them out, how that makes you less of a target. So we have an aware child that is now less of a target. Okay. So when I read that passage in the book, I'm like, oh my God, this is the best game ever. Everyone should play this. But this was one that I haven't played with Izzy. So that's why I wrote it all out here in the slides for you. All right. So along those same lines, what if once your kid gets used to being in different situations, you start to talk about like scenarios. Well, what would happen now? You look over and you're like, all right, you're at the bus stop, you're waiting for the bus, you're calm, you're relaxed. I can tell because you're chilling and you're on your phone. But what would happen if, and start with something good, the ice cream truck came around and gave everybody some ice cream. It's like, oh yeah, cool. Or what if the bus never came? Or what if there are other people at the bus stop with you and they start arguing? So you take them, as they get older, you take those scenarios that you see that they're comfortable in, and then you play what if games. And you can, depending on how your child feels, you can do that with the younger kids too. An oldie but goodie, hide and seek. So for us, Ernie is Isabella's stepdad. And when he first came to live with us, he would play hide and seek with her at the house all the time. And if this isn't like your run of the mill hide and seek, if you guys have ever met my husband, he is the biggest kid ever, all about fun. And him and Isabella got along very well. But what they did was they would play hide and seek in the house. And I mean, laundry baskets are turned over. Everything from under the bed is pulled out so that someone could get underneath. The closets, my house was a mess. But Izzy was getting really good at finding him and hiding herself. So she was identifying places where she could hide if she needed to. She was also identifying places in her home where a grown man could hide. Now, I know that's a scary scenario, but I'd rather her be prepared for that than not. Then Izzy got smarter. She started problem solving, and her critical thinking started like ratcheting up, and it was amazing to see. So Ernie would hide, and if she couldn't find him, she would call in, and she would wait to hear the phone ring. Then Ernie got smart, turned his ringer off, so she FaceTimed him, so she could see what was in his surroundings. So she knew where he was. So hide and seek is a really cool way to watch your kids get really smart. So that's a great game to play. SOS is another great game. Oh, that's right, Ernie. She did call from my phone to trick him. Ooh, our little assassin. Anywho, so SOS was another game that I found that I thought was awesome. So it's basically hide and seek again, but it's hide and seek to the next level. It's a little bit more. There's some more tactics involved. So you think about if you're somewhere. Thank you. She is very clever. If you're somewhere where your child's going to have to hide and you're not going to be able to communicate verbally, if you get separated or so there are some really violent and scary things happening in the world around us. So we don't necessarily want to focus on the frightening things, but it's important to learn and adapt and be prepared. So this game called SOS, your child is hiding from you, but is not able to communicate verbally with you. So you leave things in your environment that they could use to communicate with you. And then you close your eyes, you go in another room and you let them hide. And then you come back and you see if they've kind of left you a clue as to where they're hiding. So even like small things like leaving, if you have like some blue painter's tape, could they mark, X marks the spot. Is there, and then like you kind of ratchet it up. So if, now you hide and they have to find you, do you have a mirror? Can you reflect the light so that your child can see the light reflecting off the mirror? Do you have a flashlight where you can kind of shine a little bit of a light? So it just makes them think, if they're in a situation where they need to get your attention or they need your help, but they can't talk to you, how can they, give you an idea of where they are? So SOS, again, was a great game. So I see a couple people popping on a little bit late. So what I want to tell you guys is all of these games are in a book called Playful Preparedness by a gentleman named Tim Young. So you don't have to, if you came in halfway through and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, you can catch it on there. It's on Amazon. Let's see. This game was great. So Isabella is 10, and we've been working situational awareness with her in these types of games for about 5 years. So we're ready to kind of take it up to a new level. So before quarantine, my husband, myself, my mom, and Izzy all went to the Franklin Institute. And Izzy wanted to go to a certain exhibit. So I grabbed the map and we gave it to her. And I said, okay, you take the lead. We're going to follow you. Here's the map. Get us where we need to be. And she looked at me like I was nuts, but she was able to do it. We gave her some clues. We helped her work out, here are some big identifying markers. This is how you can tell the different, levels of the museum, look around you, to orient yourself. So before compasses and before, north, south, east, and west come in, you can use big, identifying landmarks to help you out. And once she was good at that, about leading us through the Institute, then Ernie and I started messing with her a little bit, and we kind of stayed back. And she just went on without us. And my mom's like, what are you doing? But then she realized she had to come back and get us. I said, you're the leader. You can't leave your team. So you need to be aware of where everyone on your team is. And if Ernie and I get lost, you have to come find us. So giving her the control, giving her almost the permission to be the boss. My daughter loves it. But, find what your kid's like. If your kid is bossy, then let them take the lead. And then they start to identify what kind of traits a leader needs to have. So they're not a boss, they're a leader. They're taking the natural instinct that they have, and you start that team building. The Franklin Institute is a large museum. It's in Center City, Philadelphia. that's not the place I would start. But even, when Ernie takes Isabella to the supermarket, he'll rip the shopping list in half, and she'll go get stuff and he'll go get stuff. And she's proud of it. She told me when she came home from the supermarket this last time that she needed to get the popcorn, but it was on the higher shelf. So she looked around and she found that there were a display of straws. So she grabbed the display of straws and she hooked the popcorn and it fell and she got it. So giving your children the permission to think and to problem solve will make them safer in the end. So do it in stages, build them, but you'd be surprised at how intuitive your children will begin to start thinking by just following some of these games. So, and as a family, you can always build things together. So 911, so not many of us have landlines anymore. And calling 911 might, be just as easy as boom, emergency call on your cell phone. But do your kids know what to say when they call 911, or do they just know that if there's a problem to call 911? Role play that. Have them pretend dial 911 on a, even little kids with the toy phones. And then you'll be on the other side saying, 911, what's your emergency? Get them used to telling you where they are. They need to know their address anyway. Play the game. Giving, maybe you can use their doll or their dinosaur. What happened? Mom, my dinosaur broke his leg and, we were playing and he fell down and he broke his leg and he can't walk. I need an ambulance. Okay. Just identifying what the issue is and being able to articulate that to someone who can help them is not something that kids know how to do automatically. I didn't know what to do when I first called 911. I was so nervous. I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is an emergency. This might be an emergency. I don't want to waste your time. I'm really sorry. So I spent like the first 3 minutes apologizing for the fact that I called 911. When in reality, all they wanted to know was where was I, what was wrong, and what was going on. So practice that with your kids. Let them know that calling for help is not scary. It's not wrong. It's not like, well, what if what if it's really not necessary? When in doubt, call. You don't want them to hem and haw, especially if, God forbid, it's you. Knowing the kids knowing your names, not mom, not dad. So if they need help, they can call out our names. Or if they get lost in the supermarket when they go to customer service, they're not like, I can't find my mom. They can say, I can't find Ann Kirk. She's my mom. Can you please get Ann Kirk? Let them know what, bring them around your neighborhood. Let them understand where the street signs are. Let them read the names of the streets so they know where the streets are, what streets intersect, how many different ways and routes you can get to your house from other places. Where are the stop signs? Where is there a one-way street? Things like that. Just teaching them about the neighborhood while we're in quarantine and we have not a whole lot else to do besides go for walks. That's one way, to build their situational awareness is having them identify their neighborhood. How do they answer the door? Right? Explain to them that if they're home alone, they shouldn't say that to someone at the door. They should say, oh, my mom's in the shower right now. You'll have to come back later, so that people don't know that they're alone. Kids like to follow rules. So if no one's home, they might not want to lie about that. When in reality, they need to say that you're home so that a stranger or a bad guy doesn't know that they're home alone. So you have to have that conversation with them about what rules are in place to help them and what rules they can almost kind of break or create a new set of rules to keep them safe. Preparing their own food. And that goes from, identifying foods that are healthy for them. Isabella would eat ramen noodles for lunch every day if I let her, and then follow it up with a bowl of ice cream. Now, every now and then I let her do it because, we're on quarantine and, life's been kind of crazy, and I throw her a bone every now and then. But she needs to understand that she needs fruits and vegetables. She needs to eat protein. She can't just eat sugar. Prepared foods are not the best for her. But if, she feels uncomfortable using the stove, then she might have to go that route. What would be better, the yogurt that's in the fridge or the Lunchables? It's like they have to start identifying what is good, what is bad, what is healthy. And then talk to them about how and when they need to seek help. So we talk about this a lot. So my husband and I own a martial arts school, and we teach kids. And we teach them Krav Maga. So, and it's not like watered down Krav Maga. It is Krav Maga. It's aggressive. We're addressing threats. The children are learning how to defend a choke. We don't pat it with fluff, but we put it into context. So we don't want our children's classes, we don't want our students to think that if an adult grabs them, that they're going to sit there and brawl. Like, all right, bring it on. I know jab, cross, hook. No. We explain to them that there is a time and a place where you need to strike to get away. And then when you get away, it's not just, I'm going to run in circles. Where are you running to? Who are you running to? Who's your backup? I tell them all the time, police officers a backup. Why don't you? Like, you don't have to be that super strong person. We tell them that their superpower is speed, not necessarily strength, because they're tiny. They can run fast and they can weave in and out, and they can create that distance that they need. We also talk to them about what they need to say as they're creating that distance. And I tell them, I'm like, you know what, guys, you get a bad rap as kids because, mom and dad don't buy you your candy. You have a temper tantrum and you start screaming. So you can't just scream. You have to say, someone help me. That's not my mom. That's not my dad. They are trying to hurt me. I need help. So we try to have our children articulate what it is they need, and to know that they can ask for help. So I think... there you go. And then these are the books. Playful Preparedness by Tim Young. And then there's another book that's called Child Lures, and that's by Kenneth Wooden. So that's my PowerPoint spiel. I have talked to you guys for about 40 minutes. I hope it was enjoyable. Let's see, I'll hide that. So I just want to slide through here and just make sure I didn't miss any questions and say hi. Tirza, how's it going? Des, good morning. Happy Mother's Day. Chris Kettlebell, PT. How are you? Thank you for watching. Kim, Katie, Tim, Kelly, what's up? Kevin, Yee, Maggie, Miss Alexander. I don't know. I'm horrible with names. Great advice to relate to the child by letting them know that you're scared too, but you're okay. Absolutely. Jerry Smith, how are you? Tracy, Meg Powers, Alan Garcia, Ryan, Shamika Jones, how's it going? Good. So yeah, guys, I understand that 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning does not work for everyone. That's why I chose to do this medium of Facebook Live, because it'll be there. So you can check it out. You can listen to it again. This was a really fun one to put together because it's fun. It's easy to do. It's not scary, and it's not like your kids will be attacked. It's like, no, your kids will learn how to problem solve and listen to their guts and have intuitive thinking. And I think that that's where self-defense needs to start, because if we can teach our children from the beginning about their awareness and their gut feeling, then we can hopefully kind of combat against all those social pressures. So from a woman's side, can we teach the girls to be more confident in their guts? So when they get to college or they get to high school and their boyfriend starts to pressure them, they can be like, thanks, but no thanks. I see these red flags. I'm not going to be a victim. And on the flip side of that, can we teach the boys that what they think matters, how they feel matters, and they don't have to buy into this macho man, I have to, be the dominant species kind of that male dialogue that those kids are getting. You have to come at it from both sides. So I did share a TED Talk yesterday about how women or domestic violence is not just a woman's issue, right? There was someone who battered that woman. So can we talk about what's going on with that person? Why they think for some reason they can batter someone else? And I really think that if we can start kids off with listening to their guts, verbalizing what their guts feel, giving that feeling, a label that they can use to talk to someone else about, then you're giving those kids the power to critically think for themselves. But that's just my thought. My background is physical therapy, so I am a preventative medicine kind of gal. So let's see. Can't wait to go back and watch. Thank you. Yes, good. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and leave them down below. Thank you for all the support and the feedback. Coming on here and doing these lectures is kind of my way to see what kind of education needs to be taught and who is actually interested in learning. So I'm really happy to see, familiar faces as well as unfamiliar faces. All right. Very good. All right. Well, if you are watching it live, thank you. I appreciate you hanging out with me. If you are watching the replay, I hope you enjoyed it. And please leave any, are the books for parents or for kiddos? So let's see. So the playful preparedness is, Meg, it's like literally a book of games. And this guy's really cool. So it goes from situational awareness to trusting your gut, all the way to purifying water, foraging for berries, building a shelter, building a fire, extinguishing a fire, all of these just kind of traits that we used to have that we don't have anymore. They're all in that book. So it's that's one book that you can kind of use as a resource guide. There's the book by Kenneth Wooden called Child Lures. It's actually, there are parts in this that are for the kids to read. There are parts for the parents to read, and then how to have the conversation back and forth. I haven't found any books that I could recommend to you for just kids, and that's not because they don't exist. It just, I haven't looked for them, but I can definitely post some of those. I can check into that. Another book that's really great is by Gavin DeBecker called Protecting the Gift. So if you have ever heard me talk, you've probably heard me talk about Gavin DeBecker because he's such a great resource. He wrote the book, The Gift of Fear. And then he also wrote a book for moms and dads for their kids called Protecting the Gift. And it kind of gives moms and dads the permission to listen to their gut when something feels off and kind of advocate for their children's safety. So that's another good one. How old was Izzy when you first introduced her to this critical thinking? So I met my husband when Isabella was 5. Yeah, I think younger. 4 or 5. Yeah. So she was I could say 4 or 5 when we started. I didn't start, when my husband started, and then I started identifying, like, oh, that's what you're doing. You're not just making a mess of my house. Because at first I'm like, I'm going to kill you. You're making a mess of my house. And then I understood, and I'm like, oh, go ahead, make a mess, do it up. Because I do want my daughter is feisty and very social, and I'm opposite of that. I'm pretty quiet and kind of well, I was raised in a house where you speak when you're spoken to, and there are lots of rules. Not much thinking, more like telling, this is what you will do. But my dad was a police officer, I say that, but then I think of all these other things that he did. He never explained them to me, but he was helping me think deductively. But Izzy started when she was 4 or 5, and she's 10 now.
Remember the carnival?
Oh my God. And I was a helicopter mom. Do you have books geared towards kiddos, toddlers? Thank you. Happy Mother's Day to everyone. The Safe Hearts series from Damsel. Yes. So I did attend a Damsel in Defense party, lecture. I don't know, T. What do you call them? Demonstration. And I did see that they do have books. I haven't read them. So I wouldn't be able to recommend, but you guys can definitely check that out as a resource, and then let me know what you think. Ernie, if you guys need to leave, go for it. But Ernie told me to tell a couple stories. So one of the games that I would always play with Izzy is, tell me where the exits are. Anyway, any place we would go, Izzy would, we would go, and I would say, Isabella, where are the exits? And she would pick out the exits. And then she started picking out like exits that weren't as, not like just the one we came in and out of. She started understanding that, the kitchen in a restaurant has an exit, and the back of a closed store has an exit. Lots of exits are not right in your frontal view. So it was fun, and that's kind of our thing. And anytime we go somewhere, she counts the exits and she tells me which one's closest and all that. So she ended up going to New York with my mom to see the Rockettes. And she texted me, and we were talking back and forth, and I'm like, when do you think you'll be home? Let grandmom know I said hi. And she texted me back. She said, grandmom said we'll be home around 9. And I found all my exits. So even without me, she was still looking. So that was fun. That was a great, the full circle. So she was identifying, she was being aware even without me, which is the goal, right? Can't be with your kids all the time. Security background. This exits game comes in handy. Yep. And even we also, so I was a bit of an overbearing mom. I love my kid. And what I didn't realize was holding her so close was really not the way to show them that you love them. You have to kind of let them go a little bit. So Ernie and I took Isabella to a carnival in Wilmington. And it was the first carnival that we had gone to. I don't like carnivals. I have social anxiety, so it makes me all nervous, and Isabella can feel that. But Isabella would go on the rides. Ernie would let Izzy go on the ride, and I would like be there waiting, like right next to the ride so she could see me. And Ernie started pulling me further and further away. He's like, we'll meet you at the exit. We'll meet you at the exit. So Isabella got to the point where she felt comfortable getting onto the ride, riding the ride, and then finding us at the exit. So scanning. Thank you. She would scan for us. She would find us. So we always had eyes on her. But we were teaching her how to have eyes on us. I needed a drink after that night. It was a baptism of fire. But Isabella learned a lot of skills and felt really confident, and, we made it through, and mommy learned some stuff too. So, all right. So thank you all again for watching. Enjoy your Mother's Day. If you watch this on the replay, reach out with any questions. And Meg, I'll look into books for the kiddos. All right, everybody. That was episode 3 of Krav and Coffee. I think we're getting some momentum. Thank you all for tuning in and saying hi. And I hope you enjoyed it. Take care.